The Common Ground World competition happening on October 15, 2024 will feature a new and more difficult version of the risotto meta. The craft requirements for risotto are 7 white rice, 3 cheese, 1 butter, 2 mushroom, and 1 chardonnay. It is crafted in the Italian restaurant with the fastest craft time of 60 seconds and stored in the storehouse. For this competition, risotto will give 30,000 stars for each one sold. The trade time for this competition is 60 seconds with a 1 gasoline cost per trade. The starting layout provided for this competition is a desert biome facing west with a river on the south side and a mountain on the north side. You start with some chardonnay vines and many tree farms near the river, so they all have the passive water that they need. This gives you everything you need to start crafting and selling some chardonnay grapes. You also have an oil seep which you may want to take advantage of for the passive crude oil, which is very helpful for the gas setup. The cash boosts for this competition are chardonnay grape from 1,820 to 4,000, oak barrel from 5,000 to 12,000, and glass bottle from 12,800 to 25,000. Risotto has a cash nerf for this competition going from 112,360 to 60,000. The rewards for this competition are the standard Gala rewards plus an NFT known as the Hasty Beekeeper Blueprint for reaching the top 1,200 placements in the leaderboard by the time the competition ends. The Hasty Beekeeper Blueprint will increase the movement speed of your beekeepers. The higher the rarity, the higher the boost. Rewards are usually distributed directly to your account within 5 days. This is the competitive risotto design that I created for this upcoming competition. It's making about 25 risotto per hour. There are quite a lot of different items involved here, which I will explain in the crafting process, but I'm not going to go through the production rates of every single item. I'm scrolling through the production monitor right now, so you can feel free to pause and look through the production rates of everything if you need to. Overall, this build is balanced, so it's not overproducing too many items, and it's basically making about everything that it needs to make. So now I'm going to get into the crafting process, starting with the windmill crafts, which are salt and sugar. I have 6 logger houses in charge of picking up wood from the 21 tree farms. There are actually too many tree farms. I am overproducing wood on purpose. I tend to do that a lot, especially with this design where you need wood and lumber for multiple things. So you could get by with a few less tree farms than what I have, but I'm just showing you what I have here. 21 tree farms total. I have 6 tractors in charge of picking up all the crops. I have 11 salt fields. All of these are on a red craft timer since no ocean was provided for this meta. That means I have no passive salty for the salt fields, which is fine because you don't need a crazy amount of salt. But if the salt fields were on a green timer, I would have only needed 2 of them, so it does make a little bit of a difference there. I have 2 sugarcane fields right here, 2 silos in charge of storing all of the crops, which are sugarcane, brine, mushrooms, and chardonnay grapes. I have only 3 windmills for this. Those 3 windmills are on a green craft timer since no shade is impacting them, so they're able to craft the crafts at the fastest craft timer possible. One of them is making sugar, which is the one over here, and the other 2 are making salt. This makes me all the salt and sugar that I need for this design, and I have a total of 4 storehouses to store all those products in. For the livestock, I have 2 ATVs in charge of picking up the milk from the 8 milk barns, and I have a total of 34 meadows for the cows to feed upon. And of course, these cows do have the 3 passive water that they need from the nearby ponds. Now I'm going to talk about cheese production and in the process, white rice. So I have 8 rice fields. They all have the 8 passive water that they need in order to grow husk rice, but do remember that you need 10 water in order to actually build the rice field. Then the husk rice gets used by the mixing tents. I have a total of 8 mixing tents, but only 7 of them are crafting the white rice. All of these mixing tents have the 1 passive energy they need from the nearby power plants. And then I have 1 sauce facility crafting rice vinegar. It requires 2 passive water, and then it needs to pick up a white rice and a sugar cane. And then I have the 1 mixing tent crafting cheese right here. It is very close to the storehouse that should be getting in most of the milk. This allows it to pick up most of the items that it needs quickly. The other item that it needs to pick up, which is the rice vinegar, should usually just get stored in the other storehouse, which is right here. And now to explain Chardonnay production, which is on the industrial side of things for this build. I have 5 oak trees, 2 lumber mills. One of the lumber mills is crafting lumber. The other lumber mill is crafting oak barrels. That is why the oak wood is required. They both have the passive energy and water drum that they need. Only the lumber needs the water drum. That's why I have it right there. Then I have 3 mines next to the mountain. These are regular iron mines. One is crafting limestone, one is crafting chromium, and the one in the corner is crafting iron. So they do have the passive energy that they need from these 2 power plants. I also decided to make it where they have the passive water drums that they need from the nearby water pumps. You don't have to do this. You could manually craft water drums via a water facility and then just make sure the water facility has the 3 passive water that it needs. But if you do that route, you can make it where you don't have to have the pond next to the mines, and thus you won't slow them down. So as you can see in my design, I do have a pond that is casting 1 passive water on all of these mines, and that is actually cutting their craft time in half, but that's completely fine because this does get me all the materials that I need to reach the production rates of 25 risotto per hour. And I am actually overproducing iron only because iron has a lower craft time compared to chromium and limestone. But if you were to aim for a higher production rate, you would want to have these on a green craft timer. So with the minerals explained, I do have 2 warehouses where you can store them in. I have 1 forklift in charge of picking up silica from the 1 sand mine, which does have the 2 passive energy that it needs, quickly storing it in the nearby warehouse. And next to that warehouse, I have the glass factory crafting glass bottles, since it does have to pick up silica 3 times, and then it can just pick up the chromium and the limestone from the warehouse across from it. And then I have 8 Chardonnay vines over here. They only need 2 passive water. They have a high craft time, that's why you need a couple of them. The Chardonnay grapes are then used in order to make Chardonnay, along with the glass bottle and the oak barrel that was explained previously. I do have 2 wineries in charge of crafting Chardonnay, since they also have a high craft time. And finally, risotto. The only thing left to explain is the mushrooms and the butter. I have 1 mushroom farm on a green craft timer, since it is positively impacted by shade. It also has the 4 passive water that it needs. This gives me more than enough mushrooms for the production rates. And I have 1 bakery in charge of crafting butter and 2 Italian restaurants in charge of crafting risottos, since the craft time isn't terribly long, but they do have to make a total 14 trips to pick up all the items that they need to pick up. For the gasoline setup, I have 2 water pumps, 2 power plants, the refinery in between them crafting gasoline, and a refinery to the side crafting petroleum. We are supplied with the oil seep, so I'm using the oil seep to provide passive crude oil for the refinery crafting petroleum. It can also supply passive crude oil for all 4 power plants in this build, allowing you to easily and quickly make all the energy that you need. And for the trade setup, I'm only using 1 trade depot, and I have an optional builder house right here in between the mines, since there is no road touching this spot. And just to mention, I do have 2 empty spots on the southwest corner over here that I'm not utilizing. I didn't need to utilize those. You could also have salt fields there and replace maybe 2 of these salt fields with meadows. I don't really think that would do much, but it's there in case you do have any ideas on how to improve this further. Here's what the AutoSell looks like. I have a majority of the items at an AutoSell quantity of 12. Some of them are on 15, some of them are on 10. Of course, risotto, you would want to have that at a quantity of 10 so you can sell it right away. Notice how I have wood on AutoSell right here at a quantity of 15. You do want wood to be hitting your lumber yard, that way your tractors can pick it up and take it to the Chardonnay vines in order to craft Chardonnay grapes. So if your lumber yard is full of lumber, then you won't be able to do this, so make sure you AutoSell lumber as well as wood, as well as oak wood, just in case you do have too much oak wood hitting your lumber yard. I do have oak wood at an AutoSell quantity of 10. For the ones that are on 15, it's usually the crops like the sugarcane and brine. The grapes, I probably should have put that out 15 as well, but I do have that one on 12. But you get the idea of how to set up AutoSell. Also, I don't always mention this, but you probably do want to put petroleum on AutoSell. Now, if you have the fuel storage in between both of the refineries, then you will not overproduce petroleum and you will have no issue. But if you have the fuel storage closer to the refinery making petroleum, you will absolutely overproduce petroleum. And if you don't sell the excess petroleum, your fuel storage may get jammed and have no space for gasoline. Here's what the build looks like on the visualizer. Total cost is about 14.5 million. Wages are 17,540 per minute, but you will have no issue paying the wages once you are finished with the design. You can find the file for this visualizer on my Discord server, and an invite link to the Discord is in the description. Once again, no NFTs are required in order to reach this production rate. And I don't really have much advice on how you can improve this. I do believe you can improve this. You could push it closer to 30 per hour. It would be very difficult to do so, and I'd be impressed if you managed to do that, but I don't think it's impossible. Now, I did utilize subgrid placement on this build, something I usually don't do for my no NFT designs that I showcase to the public. But as you can see right here, the way I have the two water pumps placed, I have them in between these three tiles basically. That allows me to have two passive water drums hit this one and two passive water drums hit this one. In reality, they're both getting 1.5 water drums, which rounds up to 2. And really the only reason I did this was so I wouldn't have to worry about having water drums in the warehouse, which is one less item to worry about. So as you can see right here, notice how my two warehouses are full. That means I will be losing some items. I've lost some silica, I have lost some oak barrels, limestone, iron. This has been running for 13.5 hours, as you can see. I also lost some glass bottles, chromium. So you get the idea. You could have a third warehouse and that would probably solve that issue. You could also lower the auto sell quantity of some of these items to 10. I'm pretty sure, like oak barrels is at 12, for example. That is one of the reasons that is causing an issue, but I pretty much should have everything on here to craft everything I need for risotto still. If you decide to manually craft water drums, that's another item to worry about. You would definitely need a third warehouse in that case. And yeah, you probably would have the space since you're not doing this, but that's just one thing to keep in mind if you do want to go that route. And that is probably what you would have to do if you want to go beyond 25 risotto per hour, because this is capping out at close to 25 chromium and limestone per hour. You can also take advantage of subgrid placements in certain locations where the roads aren't really used that often, such as this area right here. You could have a road between these two logger houses, another one between these two, and another one for this logger house mostly, but you get the idea. This would clear up about 3 more spots for meadows, which would help with your milk production. You would probably want to have another milk barn if that's the case, if you have more meadows and thus craft more milk, since you still need a good amount of milk for this design to work, especially since you're using it for 2 different items, that being the cheese as well as the butter. But other than that, I really don't have any other recommendations on how to improve this other than using NFTs, of course, to further improve the production rates. So I hope my design was able to help you with creating or improving your current design for the upcoming competition. If you found this helpful or informative, please leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you haven't done so. And if you want to help support my channel, you can find links in the description on how to do so. As always, I appreciate your support and thank you for watching.